Hey everybody, this is Darth Bribewell here, and I just got back from seeing the movie Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. I own two of his movies. One of them is one of my favorite movies of all time, Ex Machina. I think that movie is a freaking masterpiece of sci-fi. And I still like to think that in that movie, Ava, the robot, went back for Caleb. I'm a little scatterbrained because that's what this fucking movie will do to you. It is a dark fucking film. It's bleak. It's intense. It's shot wonderfully. Every fucking frame in this movie is beautiful. The characters are all intriguing. The pacing is tight. It just keeps you locked in to everything that's happening. You are invested in the world of this film. So, of course, I forgot some of these characters' names. Unfortunately, I think Kirsten Dunst's character is Lee, who's basically our main character throughout this movie. She's a war-hardened journalist who's seen too much and basically has this, emotionless type of character throughout most of this movie. Someone who's very matter-of-fact, someone who's trying to train this other character, whose name I can't remember, unfortunately, who also wants to be a journalist. And it's just about this group of journalists wanting to try to interview this tyrannical president before this coup by the Western forces happens. And the journey to get to this president is an intense one. There are scenes that will just mess you up. Jesse Plemons' character, Kirsten Dunst's husband, gives this chilling, villainous, vile performance. The worst of America. This nationalist, racist, vile, degenerate of a person, if you can call him that. The peak of dehumanization in this movie. The peak of pure evil in this one individual. This sadism, this lack of empathy, all captured in this one minor character. But I mean, the scene this guy's in, he steals the show. Because you're just hooked on just how demented he is. How demented the populace of this version of the U.S. is. There's no empathy. There's no humanity. There's no compassion. There's none of this typical American type of friendliness that you expect. Or that you would think to see in this world. It's this war-torn hellhole. There is no such thing as empathy or compassion in this world. There's just survival against the various fractions that are in this dystopian version of the U.S. And you do wonder who the good guys are and who the bad guys are throughout this movie. You know for a fact the main villain is this tyrannical president portrayed by Nick Offerman. We don't know what led to this civil war happening. We don't know the specific time period that this movie takes place in. My guess is probably, disturbingly enough, it has to be the 2030s. I'm going to just keep it at that, because that just makes the most sense to me. Or 2040s, one of those decades is what I'm suspecting this movie takes place in, because this president is a fictional president and he's had 3 terms. So 12 years in office. I mean, the trailer kind of gives it away. You see this empire fall, and it's disturbing. I mean, the battle scenes in this movie, my jaw was like on the floor. The scene you see in the trailer where the Lincoln Memorial gets shot and blown up is just as horrifying as you would expect. It's horrifying for the most obvious reason. It's one of the most iconic landmarks in this country's history. That is the landmark where Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech, which is the most American fucking speech. Because that speech represents the hopefulness of being an American, the desire to make sure the words written in the Constitution are a reality, that all men are created equal. And if we want to expand it to 21st century lingo, all people are created equal. That's what that monument represents. It represents the president who went through a civil war, was killed for doing the right thing, abolishing slavery, and to just see that monument blown up by a secessionist force, even though that secessionist force is fighting against this tyrannical president, to just see this monument of American greatness destroyed and have almost none of these secessionist forces react in horror or shock like, my God, we just destroyed one of our country's most iconic and beautiful monuments. Like, there's none of that. It's like you would expect. It's like a foreign power fighting against an enemy. That's how this is treated. And to just see that in the context of this country is terrifying. I mean, it's hard for me not to get political. I am a very political guy. I got Obama shit everywhere. I voted for Bernie Sanders. I voted for Biden. I voted for Hillary. So I think the best way I can phrase this is, the movie's politics are interesting. I would say it is just seeing the depravity that this version of the U.S. is in. That people are desperate. Things you would see, like our cities, our suburbs, are destroyed. It's an apocalypse. It's terrifying. You just think about certain events subconsciously. You think about, in recent history, the storming of the Capitol by the fascist rioters on January 6th. You think of the BLM protest, which had various factions of nonviolent protesters, militant leftists, and just assholes looking for an excuse to watch shit burn. That imagery isn't lost on me as a viewer. And it can't be lost on you if you see this movie. You just see this level of desperation and suffering in what is supposed to be the greatest country in the world, but obviously it ain't. There's a line in this movie where the main characters stop at a gas station and they go, we just want to fill our tank. And it's like, it'll cost you. And it's like, okay, we got 300. And they're like, 300? Yeah, that'll get you a sandwich. Got ham and we got cheese. And then Kirsten Dunst's character Lee goes, we got 300 Canadian. And that line alone just hits so hard because it shows you the level of desperation. And it makes you wonder what the state of, migration out of this dystopian America is like. You see it subtly when the journalists drive past this military checkpoint and there's a family driving the opposite way. There are just so many scenes and, images. I could take so many screenshots of this movie and it would just capture how horrifying this world is. There's one scene in particular that really just, the best way I can describe that scene, it sticks with you like the rape scene in Clockwork Orange. It hits you on that level of disgust, horror, sadness. I noticed something in that scene that really fucked with me. And it just shows you how horrible and how horrifying this world of this dystopian America is. I can't praise this movie enough. The movie kind of spoils itself in the trailers. There's a shot from kind of the end of the movie that is in the trailer. But while this movie doesn't really have a political agenda, because you have the Western forces, which consists of California and Texas, coming together to fight this authoritarian president, it does make you wonder what really got this world started. It is a thinking man's film in that regard. It's a thinking man's blockbuster. It's this movie that just makes you wonder how close we are within our divisions. What is this world we are living in this post-Trump world? What does that mean for the stakes of coming together as one people? How thin is that thread that's holding this country together in some form? This movie makes me think about that. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep after it, to be fucking honest. If you want a rating, I'd say an A. A plus even. Cinematography is gorgeous, pacing is amazing, editing is exhilarating. This movie knows how to balance these moments of sadness and horror, as well as the kind of hopefulness and optimism. But even those scenes of hopefulness and optimism have this horrifying undertone of, my God, what has become of this country and this universe? You watch that scene with this asshole in it, and you tell me you're not shaken to your core. Especially after you just watch that scene, and you tell me you're not going to be in the same headspace I'm in. I'm really doing my best not to say what I want to say in the context of politics. This is my YouTube channel. I can say whatever I want. But I also want to hammer home the message of this movie. We are all people in this country. What holds us together is this idea of the great melting pot. Give me your sick, you're tired, you're wounded, and they'll be welcomed. It's about making sure that melting pot doesn't get poisoned by the virus of nationalism, nativism, racism, fascism, xenophobia. It's about understanding that multiculturalism is our strength, that it enhances the values that were founded in this country. Despite the problematic foundings that we are based upon, there are some damn good ideas that we have. These institutions of free speech, these institutions of the right to defend ourselves, these institutions of this right to privacy, while they are, and some might even say have been withered away in the past few decades, it's important to remember that you have to watch out for tyranny wherever it comes up, and you have to be willing to document it. That's one of the great things about the internet, in my opinion. We all have this. This can capture so much. It can hold the state accountable. It can hold those in power accountable. And we can share it from this very device. It's important to not let the light of liberty die by the hands of authoritarianism. Because once that happens, this freaking movie might as well be a documentary. My hope is that obviously we never get to that point as a society or as a country. That the morons who actually root for it realize the folly and stupidity in what they are asking for. Like, unless they're willing to bear arms, unless they're willing to be on the front lines, they can kindly shut the fuck up. So with that in mind, I highly recommend you see this movie, especially in IMAX. I mean, oh my God. I do have probably another video that I'm going to shoot right after I record this one about the IMAX experience. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider giving me a like, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and checking out one of my other videos. Thank you for watching once again.